Hello, it's Julie again, and I'm here with the third part of our little course on how to make wired tea light holders. Now the worksheet for this is available free on the Spellbound website. Previously I've showed you how to make a little basket, this we call trellis, and I've showed you how to make a little basket with little flowers around the top. And in fact, I showed you how to make that in different beads. For this third instalment, I'm going to show you how to make the Starlight tea light holder. Now this one is made with a different type of weave again, and it's got a border of little stars made with wire and seed beads, and these really scatter the flame light from your tea light. It's a really pretty little design and it's great fun to make and really adaptable. Now this particular one, the original, the one that shows on the worksheet, is made with these lovely lustrous glass beads from India and some copper lined seed beads. Now I've chosen the Indian glass beads because they're inexpensive and because they've got a really large hole compared to the size of the bead, so we can pass the wire lots of times through each bead as we're making the weave. However, for this particular demonstration I want to show you how it is possible to use different beads. So instead of the lustrous twists, I'm going to use some fire polish facets. I'm going to use 6mm, and these are in a crystal AB finish because I think this will be nice for Christmas. And I'm swapping the size 6 seed beads for some lustered crystal ones. The original is this copper line crystal, which picks up on all the sort of warm tones in the lusters. This time I'm going for sparkly and silvery, and to back that up I'm going to use a silver 0.5mm wire. Again, the original was in copper, this time I think silver, and we'll give it a really sparkly, Christmassy, frosty look. The weave on this basket is made slightly differently from the previous ones. It's actually made from 3 rods of beading. At one end of each rod you've got a star. In the centre you have a little length of beads, and then between the star and the beads you've got a twist of wire. If I show you on the original basket how this works, here's the star at the end, there's the twist of wire, and this is the sequence of beads. It crosses across the bottom and up the opposite side. There's the final twist and the star of beads. As you can see, 6 stars, so that means we need to do 3 rods. Now I have already prepared the second and third rods on the worksheet, so I'm going to take you through step by step how to make the first rod on the worksheet. We're going to start by making a star. I'm going to take 1 seed bead and I'm going to position it about 25 centimetres from the end of the wire. Now that 25 centimetres is important because the excess from this 25 centimetres is going to be what we use to hold the basket together. So if you're unsure, don't guess, measure it, and in fact add a little bit for luck just in case. Right, back to my seed bead. I'm going to make a small loop about 12mm or 1.2 centimetres long, and I'm going to pinch at the base of that loop. So my seed bead is right at the end, and then I'm going to twist between the bead and the pinch. So I'm flipping the bead over and over to make a little rope. Now the pinch stops the twist going any further. That's the first ray on my star. Now I'm putting a seed bead onto the long end of the wire, passing it all the way down, and I'm going to make a second loop around about the same length, and I'm going to pinch it off at the base of the first twist. So the loop is all made with the long end of the wire, and I'm pinching it off at the base of the first twist. And then I'm going to twist to the pinch again. I'll just hook that out of the way. There we go. And so I've got two little twists which make a V shape. And I'm going to repeat. So there's a third loop about the same length, pinch off at the base of the previous two twists and twist to the pinch. 3 rays. Number 4. Another loop and another set of twists. And number 5 coming up. Now the instruction sheet suggests that you add 7 rays to your star. I'm just going to do 5. I think in the silver 5 is enough, but you might want to do 7, you might want to do 6, but I actually think an odd number is better than an even number. So there I've got 5 rays on my star. I now want to add something in the middle of the star, so I'm just going to wrap the wire. This is the long end still, I'm still just working with the long end. So I've wrapped the long end around the centre to anchor it. I'm going to thread on a seed bead and draw it across the centre. Wrap that on firmly, and I'm going to flip the star over and repeat on the other side. The more beads you add, the more glisten you'll get when your tea light is lit. There we go. So now that's a bead in the centre on the back and a bead in the centre on the front. Now I'm going to make that twist or the stem for the star. I've got the short end and the long end together, and I'm going to pinch about 2.5 to 3 centimetres down. Pinch firmly, and this time I'm flipping the whole star over and over and over to make a twist. There we go. Make the star look like a star again, because I've squished it a bit. And I'm going to separate the wire ends. You can see I've got a star on a little stem. Now this is the short end of the wire. I'm going to make an anchor before I start to thread the main strip of beads on, and this seed bead is going to be the anchor. So I've threaded one onto the short end of the wire. Onto the long end of the wire I'm going to thread one of my larger beads. Now I'm using 6mm facets. You might be using the luster beads on the original worksheet, but whichever it is, it's one onto the long end of the wire. I'm going to bring it up level with the short end of the wire and pass the short end of the wire through the same bead in the same direction. As I pull it down towards the bottom of the twist and push it up, it makes that first seed bead into an anchor. The long end of the wire passes around the outside of that seed bead so it can't move either up or down. This is quite important. If you don't make an anchor, the beads you're subsequently going to thread on can slip up over the rope, and that spoils the whole construction. Right, now we're going to put on our bead sequence, and it's 2 seed beads and a large bead, 2 seed beads and a large bead. I'm going to bring those down towards the facet bead or the large bead I've already got on. Now I actually want the short end to pass through these beads again as well, so withdraw them slightly so that we can get everything onto both thicknesses of wire. Now this is where the three sets of instructions rather differ. For the different rods you will be threading on different numbers of beads at this point. I'm doing the first sequence, so I'm going to put on 7 seed beads. 6 and 7. Oops. Thread those down. So those are my 7 seed beads. I'm going to make sure that the short end also goes through those 7 seed beads. Now at this point I'm going to stop using the short wire end, so I'm just going to push it to the side, and that will keep those 7 seed beads together. I'm now going to put on another 7 seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7 to match the first 7. And you'll find when you make the other rods you actually put on 14 all in one go. I'm now going to replicate this sequence here. In the background you can hear all life carrying on while we're doing our beading. That's why beading is so relaxing. You really don't care about what's going on in the rest of the world. It's just you and your beads. Okay, so I've put on the same sequence again, which is large 2 seeds, large 2 seeds, large. So large 2 seeds, large 2 seeds, large. And I also need to put on the anchor bead. So that's 1 seed bead. Now I'm going to make a star at this end of the wire. And I need to start making the star up here somewhere to allow enough wire to make a matching twist. So I'm going to put my seed bead on for the first ray. And I'm going to leave about that much space, plus enough for the ray, and make a little bend. So that's going to be for my first ray on my star. I'm going to pinch about 12 millimeters, 1.2 centimeters up from the bead and twist to the pinch. And that's the start of my star. I need to do 4 more. Just to match the other end. So that's 2. That's 3. The barking you can hear is my dog Jess, who's just come back from her walk. And so I made 4, and this is number 5. Right, now we need to put the centre in. So to make everything secure to start with, I wrap over the centre, and then we're ready to start adding the beads. So that's 1 for the centre here. Let's flip it over and put 1 in the centre on the back. It doesn't really matter which direction you take the wire in, as long as the beads are secure and the work is neat. There we go. So I've got a bead on the front and back, and I'm just going to put 1 little twist there just to hold everything together. It's tending to dance around a little bit. Okay. Now we need to make the rope coming back towards this end bead, this bead that's going to become the anchor. I'm going to pinch a short distance up from the anchor, about 1/2 centimetre, and I'm going to twist to that pinch. You can see I've left a little bit of play there. That's quite important because as I work back along this strip, I need to be able to push the end of the wire back out through the beads so I can continue to thread it along. And if you don't leave that little bit of play, you'll find that it's just too tight to do. Now at the moment I've got about 8mm. I'm going to reduce that play down just a bit to about 1/2 centimetre, 5mm, and then we're going to make the anchor. The anchor is just that single seed bead, so I push that up to the base of the twist and I pass back through the first large bead along. There we go, and if I push that first large bead back, you can see I've done the same anchor with the strap of wire around the seed bead. Now I need to make the arrangement as strong as possible, and to make it as strong as possible I need as much wire as will fit through these beads, because these are the structure of the basket. So I'm going to pass the long end of the wire back through all of these beads all the way to the other anchor. Now this is relatively easy if you're using the luster beads because they've got a nice generous hole, but the facet beads are a little bit tight for 3 thicknesses of wire, so you're going to need to be patient if you're using a different sort of bead. So I'm through a few and I'm going to keep working my way back. Now this is the first obstacle here that you're going to come across, and that's the other end of the wire. Now from this point we've already got 2 thicknesses of wire through these beads, so you need to make sure that the end of the wire that you're working with is very straight and aim it through the beads. It's getting stuck just there, so I'm going to pull it out through the gap, get it through just those ones. And then I can re-straighten the end and start again. It's better to do it in little steps and try to do it all in one go. If we try to do it all in one go, you can't find out where the end is when it's stuck. There we go, up to the end. So not so difficult if you do it all in smaller steps. Now this last little bit I need to make sure I pull that through. I've got to keep that nice and smooth. There we go, and we're through. Now that little bit of play I had between the beads is still there. Just straighten everything out, and there's my end that I've just passed all the way back. I'm going to finish off this end of the wire by wrapping it round adjacent to that anchor seed bead so it's nice and firm, and then I'm going to remove this excess wire. Now we can do it with wire cutters, but it's easier and neater to break it off. So put your thumbnail against where you want it to finish and twist and pull on the excess. as you can see, it breaks off and it doesn't leave a nasty little burr. Right, so now I have the first rod made from the worksheet. If I bring in the other two I've prepared, that's number 2 and that's number 3. Now you'll see they're identical bead sequences, but the short end of the wire pops out in a different position. This is the one we've just made. The short end of the wire is right in the centre. The second one you'll make, it comes out between these 2 seed beads, and the third one, it's the second set of seed beads along. And these correspond to the bindings. That's the one at the centre of the first rod. This set of bindings is this position here, and this set of bindings is this position here. I'm going to clear the surface and show you how to do the binding. I'm now ready to start the binding. I'm going to start the binding at the centre of the base. So I've laid down the rod I've just made, which is the first one on the worksheet, and this has got the short end of the wire sticking out right in the centre of the sequence. I'm going to pick up one of the other rods and I'm going to find the midpoint, which is 7 beads along from either end. So 2, 4, 6, 7, and I'm going to lay that into that gap. I'm going to use the short end of the wire that's present on the first rod and join the two together. Simple as that. I'm now going to pick up the third rod, again find the middle, so that's 7 beads in from one end, 7 beads in from the other, lay it into the gap and bind it on. And you'll find that most of that little bit of slack that you'd left in your bead sequence is now taken up, so everything feels quite tight. So there we have the base of our weave. I'm not going to trim that end off yet, just in case I need to make some adjustments. Hopefully not, but leave it just in case. Now we're going to work around the first set of bindings. Now on your instruction sheet there's a diagram that shows you where the bindings will be as red dotted lines, and also a green dotted line that shows you where the fold is, because obviously the base has got to be flat and then the sides fold up. The fold is going to be just about here between the first seed bead and the second seed bead, so as we work around I'm going to make that fold. Now this is the wire end that's poking out between the first 2 seed beads along from the centre. So this is the second rod you will make. I'm going to put on a bead sequence that will reach to this gap here. Now when you're working with the luster beads, you need 2 seed beads, then your luster, then 2 seed beads. Now I'm working with a 6mm facet bead. These are a little bit shorter than the luster tubes, so I need to add an extra seed bead on each side, because these weaves that I'm going to make now will set the diameter of the pot. If I make it too short by only using 2 seed beads, the Tealight's not going to fit in the hole. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 seed beads, facet bead, 3 seed beads. I'm going to look round to the next rod and I want the same gap on the next rod, and I'll wrap around. And then if I make that bend I was talking about, you can see that's the first bit of the pot coming together. Now I need the same bead sequence again, so 3 seed beads, 1 facet and 3 seed beads. I look along the next rod to the same gap and I wrap the wire around and make my fold. You can see the weave is starting to happen. Now, you might see a fatal flaw in my plan. When I started the video, I said it's really important that you measure 25 centimetres and be generous with it for your short end. As you can see, I didn't measure it properly, and I've ended up with a short length of wire that won't go all the way around. But it does give me an opportunity to show you how to join in a new piece of wire if you need to. So it was a deliberate, non-deliberate mistake. I've cut myself a new piece of the 0.5 wire. I'm going to push it down the last few beads I threaded on and then wrap it into the same gap, and that joins it on. I'm going to leave this end for the moment, the short end, and continue with the weave. This is the joy with wire. You can do all sorts of little repairs and fudges that nobody will ever know you did. Right, so I've got 3 seed beads, a large and 3 seed beads. Look for the next gap. There we go, and do the bend. We're getting around now. So it's 1, 2, 3 beads, a large one, 3 seed beads. Look for the right gap again between those 2 seed beads on the next rod and wrap it on and do the fold. Coming round to close it up soon. So we've got 3 seed beads, a large bead and 3 seed beads. There's the gap between those 2 seed beads. In the gap, wrap it round nice and tight, do the bend. And you can see we're nearly all the way around. So it's 3 seed beads, a large bead and 3 seed beads. Going to look for the gap and bind it on. There we go. It's a bit wibbly at the moment because I haven't got all the weaving on, but you can see that's the start of the base of your basket. Now I need to finish off these loose wire ends. These ones I don't actually need anymore. Make sure that last binding is firm. I'm going to take it round one more time just to be certain, and then I'm going to pass it through a couple of beads along the first horizontal sequence, so perhaps through the first few seed beads. I haven't got the end of the wire very straight, so it doesn't really want to go through, but I will persuade it. There we go. I should get my, not wire cutters, but flat pliers just to help me pull it through. Make sure there's no loop left, and we're going to twist off the excess. There we go. I'll go back to the short wire end I left from when I had to join a new piece in, and I'll do the same. I'll pass it through a few beads. This might be a bit more awkward because it's such a short end. It gives you very little to play with. There we go. I'll just take it through one seed bead, pull it through and remove the excess. There we go. Put the bends back in, and that's the first layer of the horizontal sides done. I'm going to do exactly the same with this layer, and I'll be back in a minute to show you how to finish it off. Okay, so I've put on the second layer of the weave, exactly the same as the first layer. So this is the first layer here. The second layer has gone in the little gap here between the second pair of size 6 seed beads, and it's exactly the same. And yes, I'd cut my wire too short for that one as well, so I had to add in a new piece. However, now I've got the second layer on, it looks quite like a basket already, and I need to make sure now that it's safe and stable for my tea light. So I'm going to pop the tea light in, and I'm going to press really hard on the tea light with this on a flat surface so that the bottom of the holder becomes completely flat. That's really important. It has to be absolutely stable. That re-establishes the bends that I've put round the base, and I've just adjusted all the weave all the way around so it's nice and even. Now I'm happy with how the base feels, so I'm now going to twist off this piece of wire that was in the centre. There we go, it hasn't left a burr. That's good. Now the last thing to do is I want to put an extra ring of seed beads just around here to make sure that all these rays of the base stay separated. So I've got a new piece of wire, or it can be a trimming from before, and I'm going to join it on in the gap between the third and fourth beads from the centre. So just join it on there. So it's 1, 2, 3, and there's the join. I'm going to bind it off to the same position here. Now the instructions say 3 seed beads, which I think will be correct for me, but you might find that if you're using slightly chunkier seed beads, which can happen, size 6 seed beads can vary a little bit, you might need 2. I think 3 is right. I just need to make sure, because I'm working all in silver on silver. It's actually quite difficult for me to see what I'm doing. It's all too sparkly, which is not normally a problem, obviously. Too sparkly is a good thing. And into this gap. And I'm going to continue that all the way around until I've made a complete circle. Now you can see I've completed my circle on the base and I've finished off the wire ends. That just gives it extra stability. So if I drop my tea light in now, it's perfectly stable. To finish off, I think I'm just going to put a little bit of shape into my stamens. So rather than standing upright, I'm going to bend them to make more interesting profile. Now you could of course spiral these, which would be really quite exciting. There we go. That's my Starlight tea light complete. Now, as with all naked flames, once your tea light is lit, do not leave it unattended, and be aware that because this is made from glass and wire, it will get hot. So don't touch it until it's cooled down, and when it is lit, it needs to be on a fireproof surface. Thank you for watching. I hope you really enjoy making some tea lights and perhaps developing the techniques to make bigger baskets and more elaborate designs.